There's a lot about the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover spectacular that ultimately made it a rip-roaring success, but there were plenty of awkward and inexplicable moments as well. Let's take a look at the 5 best and worst moments in Crisis on Infinite Earths. Turning Oliver Queen into the Spectre, the universe's agent of justice and vengeance, was a stroke of genius that many viewers never saw coming. Episode 4 of Crisis on Infinite Earths had a conclusion similar to the comic. Oliver channeled the energy of his friends, the Paragons, in order to defeat the Anti-Monitor and restart the Big Bang. All of that was less interesting than the smaller, character-driven moments that Spectre Oliver spent with his friends in that episode, as he guided them through his memories in order for them to survive various plot contrivances. The heart of the Arrowverse has always been Oliver Queen and Barry Allen's unlikely friendship, as Oliver drew inspiration from Barry's love and Barry drew strength from Oliver's resolve. The show gave them the closure they needed and deserved. In the course of the Arrowverse, when crossovers get bigger, the story starts to make less sense. In Episode 1 of Crisis, the Monitor tells the heroes that the last stand will be on Supergirl's Earth 38. In subsequent episodes, that gets changed to Earth 1, as he suddenly tells everyone to find the Paragons who would help defeat the Anti-Monitor, who then shows up to destroy everything, at which point it becomes all about defeating the Anti-Monitor at the beginning of time. There's a long digression during which they try to prevent the Monitor from ever traveling through time. Finally, the Anti-Monitor's first defeat doesn't quite stick, so they need to find a new way to deal with him by sending him to the Microverse.
Essentially, we'd be sending him to the Atomverse.
I like to call it the Microverse.
Oh, that's better. Possible trademark issues, but that's better.
It all adds up to a crossover's worth of MacGuffins, as it was rarely clear as to what was going on and why, other than a vague sense of the universe coming to an end. With a meandering plot and a villain who barely appeared on the screen, Crisis on Infinite Earths was saved by the scenery-chewing greatness of Jon Cryer as Lex Luthor. It's not just that his Luthor is a smarmy know-it-all with a vicious streak that's a delight to watch.
Never thought I'd say this, but I'm tired of killing Superman.
This Luthor is also a plot-generating machine. Almost every second he's on screen, he's coming up with schemes to take advantage of the crisis and punish his enemies Superman and Supergirl. When the multiverse was in danger, Lex steals the Book of Destiny in order to kill Superman in every reality, leading to some of the best cameos in the crossover, like Lex confronting the grown-up Clark Kent from Smallville only to find out that he had given up his powers. When going back in time to prevent the Monitor from accidentally releasing the Anti-Monitor, Lex tries to manipulate the Monitor instead, and when the multiverse is rewritten, Lex changes things so he's now a hero. No matter what he did throughout Crisis, Lex had clear motives, a smart plan, and ruthless ambition. The Arrowverse shows have always been known for excellent action set pieces. What did we get in Crisis on Infinite Earths? A bunch of shadow minions that disappeared on contact. Even non-powered, non-combatant Dr. Ryan Choi was able to beat them up with just his 2 fists. The final confrontations with the Anti-Monitor felt anticlimactic, as those battles wrapped up quickly and with a minimum of spectacular things to look at on screen. It's enough to make you wish the Anti-Monitor had summoned various supervillains to be his minions, even if only for a scene or two. One of the pleasures of the crossover is seeing Kate Kane emerge as a significant hero in her own right. In a crossover with a few clever swerves, the best comes after traveling to Gotham City on Earth 99 in Episode 2 in order to find one of the Paragons needed to defeat the Anti-Monitor. In this case, it's Kevin Conroy, voice of Batman from the 90s animated series, playing Batman as an elderly, physically broken, and bitter man. Supergirl and Batwoman are looking for the Paragon of Courage, and for a while, it felt like their role would be helping Batman regain his courage. But this Batman is an even darker version of the character from The Dark Knight Returns, a stone-cold killer who'd even slain Superman.
Life only makes sense if you force it to.
The real Paragon of Courage turns out to be Kate Kane herself, who confronts her own demons by defeating this twisted version of her cousin in one of the best scenes of the crossover. Tom Cavanaugh is usually fun to watch as whatever version of Harrison Wells appears on The Flash. His most recent multiverse incarnation, Nash Wells, seemed to be no exception while he was tracking down the Monitor for his own reasons. Unfortunately, his motivations became increasingly incoherent as he seemed to serve just as the catalyst who freed the Anti-Monitor. That was bad enough, but his later transformation into a cosmic being known as the Pariah was even more confusing. His purpose and powers were maddeningly vague, and he seemed to be little more than an instrument to move the plot along. Even when the world was reset and his memories of his role in all of this were triggered, his character didn't do much more than act as a reminder that they hadn't won just yet. Introducing the noble, stubborn Jefferson Pierce, aka Black Lightning, into the Crisis on Infinite Earths narrative as more than just a cameo was another smartly played plot swerve. Merging his universe with that of The Flash and Supergirl means that all of the Arrowverse shows are now operating in the same reality, opening up the possibility of interesting guest star appearances and crossovers in the future. His reactions to the other heroes in the course of the crossover were a highlight, from his easy chemistry with Barry Allen to being taken aback by seeing two Supermen, who were comic book characters in his reality, to his wondering aloud about the necessity of a base. He was a delight, and in the end, he took his rightful place as part of the Justice League. The Anti-Monitor showed no agency or motivations for his actions other than antimatter and matter being unable to coexist in the same place. What little dialogue he had was mostly the usual sort of blustery threats from your average megalomaniacal supervillain. For someone touted as an evil force surpassing anything the heroes had ever encountered, his main evil seemed to be sheer boredom. His shadow minions were about as effective and terrifying as paper ghosts. Worst of all, he just seemed kind of dumb. He seemed so certain of his victory that he didn't seem to have any real plans or schemes that the heroes had to deal with, nor did he care to stop the heroes from doing what they were doing. The final scenes of Episode 5 were note perfect, beginning with Barry Allen and Sarah Lance eulogizing their friend Oliver Queen and setting up an eternal flame for him to the old Super Friends theme playing over the final reveal of the Hall of Justice. The show leaned heavily on DC Universe mythology and nostalgia. With Oliver gone, it's only right that Barry should be the new catalyst for the heroes, and it's fitting that for the hero designated as the Paragon of Love, his idea was a big clubhouse where his friends could hang out. The sheer look of glee on the actors' faces when they sat at the round table of this new Justice League was palpable, and it opens up a multitude of storytelling possibilities. The only character who died in the crossover was Oliver Queen, and it took him a couple of tries before he finally perished. The Arrowverse has never been shy about killing characters, so it may seem odd that in an event as big as this, there would be so few permanent casualties. Although it's easy to understand this decision from a storytelling perspective. The writers clearly wanted to keep as many characters around as possible for the revised realities of their TV shows. Thematically, it was also clear that they wanted to honor the Green Arrow and actor Stephen Amell as Arrow is ending. Having too many characters sacrificing themselves would have taken away from the focus on Oliver. That said, it did feel like a cheat that pretty much every significant character wound up just fine in the end, even if their realities were shuffled with a bit. The heroes were supposed to be confronting the end of everything, and the outcome didn't reflect this. Hopefully, future crossovers will be scaled back a bit. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite movies and TV shows are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.